Rest into the sense of being together. A sense of these kind hearts here supporting your practice tonight. And whose practice you're supporting also. And just as you do that, just as you notice the Sangha and rest there, notice if anything happens in your body, your heart, your mind. As I turn to the Sangha, I can feel a little bit of loosening, a little bit of dropping in my shoulders, a little tiny bit of softening in my heart, a little bit of gratitude flowing in my heart. So tonight, what we're going to do is continue on with our exploration with the 7 factors of awakening. These 7 friends that we have in our heart and mind that support a heart and mind that is open to awakening, to release from clinging, the struggle we have with that can cause us to feel suffering. And so just there when I invited you to check in to how the body, mind, and heart felt when you turned toward the Sangha, that's a wonderful part of the 7 factors of awakening. The 7 factors are, the first is mindfulness. The second is, with our mindfulness, we can investigate, we can ask questions, we can inquire. And then the third is energy. The fourth is joy. The next one is calm. The sixth is concentration or gatheredness. And the 7th is equanimity. And so tonight we're going to continue our investigation of investigation. And so this question of how does it feel to turn to the Sangha, to allow, to recognize the support of these kind friends, is a wonderful inquiry. See what happens in your own body, mind, heart. Just check in there again. As you rest in this community of kind friends, kindred spirits. And I'll invite various inquiries tonight. Well, I'll invite us into various inquiries, and some of them may feel fruitful to you and others not so much. There's no right or wrong, no expectation, we're just playing. And so sense into your being again as I invite the refuges, and then we'll have a sit. I'm going to invite us into the refuges and just see what happens with your being, with your body, your mind, and your heart as we settle into the refuges. inviting the refuge of the Buddha, and just remembering that the capacity for awakening is in our very hearts. Just see what happens in your own being when you remember that or turn your attention to that. And then the refuge of the teachings is reflecting that on the fact that we have teachings that support peace in the heart. See what happens in your being when you reflect on that. And then the third refuge, the refuge of the Sangha, reflecting on the support of the Sangha that we have here. And all the ways that you may be supported in community. Friends, family, neighbors, pets, the community of nature. Sensing the breath. It connects us to the larger body of nature. And the Sangha of Treaty 6 that we're all a part of. And just being curious, which of these refuges felt, or did any of these refuges feel supportive for your ease or peace? As we bring now our mindfulness in for our sit, or continue on with our mindfulness and turn towards our meditation time, notice what happens as you rest into the body with mindfulness. What happens in your heart, your body, your mind? What happens when you rest into the sensations of the body being supported by the chair? What happens when you rest into the breath? Letting the breath, noticing the breath as it comes in through the nostrils, fills the lungs, the belly, the side body, the back of the body. What happens as you rest into this breath, letting it ebb and flow? Noticing that you don't have to try hard. You might notice some tightness, some busy mind. Is there a way to just let that be? Allow it also to rest in the breath. Mind will move to thinking and come back all by itself. You can notice what happens when it comes back. Is there a way to allow it without judging? How does that feel? Or if there's a judgment, how does it feel to just know that that's normal? No problem. And then how does it feel to know there's a choice to rest back into the body and the breath? If even just for a half a breath. And just resting in this ebb and flow of thoughts and returning to the body and the breath. Just keeping your eyes closed at the end of our meditation. Let's inquire in about how it is now inside. How is it now in your body, in your heart, in your mind? And finding one or two words that describe what it's like now after our meditation. It could be very, very different for everyone. Taking a moment to inquire like this is very skillful. This is what helps to, over time, help the mind and heart be more Velcro for these states, more present for these states, this capacity, this quality of inquiry. Lets our system rest in this state for a while, become more familiar with it. Sometimes there's a busy mind or agitation that's known at this time. And although that can be unpleasant, that's also skillful to know. It's skillful to come into intimate contact with what's happening. Then we can respond to it. So I'm going to invite us into a collective inquiry now, again with the chat box. And just enter one word or two words in the chat box for those who wish. How is it now? How is it now in your experience? And I think I've made the chat so only I can see it. So we have a number of offerings, and there are folks who are noticing things like stillness and peacefulness, great gratitude, expansiveness, calm and steadiness, calm and calmer. And those states is really, if there's a wholesome state present like that, just really notice this is a fruit of your practice and let it really permeate your being. Some people are feeling sleepiness. Some people are feeling restlessness. And these are good things to know. If we just know sleepiness is here, in a way that is becoming, we're being intimate with our life. I'm going to offer something that I learned this last week for sleepiness. It's a little bit different. And different than what I've encountered before. For folks who have sleepiness, one of my colleagues suggested that what he does is he actually imagines doing something very active and energizing. So imagines running or riding a bike or swimming, and he finds that that brings energy into his system. And so that's something you can try with for sleepiness, see what happens. And then inquire, what's the result of bringing that visualization in? And for the folks who are restless, I'm going to offer something for you and also for you to try this and then inquire in, what's the effect of trying this? And so for restlessness, one of the things I find very helpful is to give restlessness, it's like a horse, it's got lots of energy. Give that restlessness a really wide corral, like a really big meadow to be restless in. Just let it be really big. And you can ask yourself, how big is this restlessness? How big a space does it need? A meadow? A valley? Let your restlessness have the space it needs and see what happens. And then that's the inquiry afterwards. See what happens. So when we come into intimate contact with our lives like this, then we can bring in wise response and then inquire, how did that work? Did that support some ease or peace in the mind? Or did it support more agitation and restlessness? And we become a student through our inquiry of what kind of feeds the fire of restlessness or feeds the fire of agitation or states which kind of stir us up, and what feeds the fire of peace and ease. This is what we are students of, and this is what our inquiry can help us see. And so inquiry is like it's often called the sword of discernment, the sword of wisdom, the discerning sword of wisdom. And I shared last week a picture of Manjusri, who is a Tibetan manifestation of this sword of discerning wisdom. I thought I would share that image again. I really like it. Can you see Manjusri there? And you can see the flaming sword of Manjusri. This sword like transforms, cuts through the veils of delusion, the not seeing. And so we've heard that just right now in our meditation. We could see clearly, oh yeah, sleepiness is here. Oh yeah, restlessness is here. And we often kind of dismiss that. Oh yeah, sleepiness here again. But the fact that we know it, the fact that we can investigate it is something that I often, let's speak for myself, kind of gloss over. Oh yeah. But that investigation quality is hugely important. I want to read a poem, and then we'll do a couple more inquiries together. This is from Adyashanti, a wonderful teacher of some of the people here I know. And this is a poem that is about the sword of Manjusri. It's the sword that cuts through delusion. It's called Tea Tasting. I like to sip sweet tea, a mix of peppermint and licorice, amber gold and smooth as silk. I have a silk shirt that feels like that tea tastes. It sits on my shoulders like a warm breeze. That tea tastes like Ramana's soft eyes, like Buddha's serene face. People go looking far and wide for the Buddha's enlightenment, but I just sip my tea, and my tea swallows me. The Buddha breaks into a grin, and Ramana winks one eye, like my grandfather did when he knew that I knew what he knew. I like green tea too, strong and bitter, like the taste of grass. With each bitter sip, Manjusri's sword cuts the delusional mind to pieces, cuts it awake, and cuts emptiness, cuts awakeness into emptiness. People come here and listen to my Dharma words, when all I really want to do is sell them a little tea. And so we really have the opportunity, we have the capacity to work with this sword of discerning wisdom. I've got 3 questions for you. The first is, what would support you right now to be as present as you can? There's some things that, for me, as I asked that question, just became bright. And one of the things that became very bright was each of your faces. Very bright. Things, and then in general, some of the qualities that came in, just that I feel like I can turn to and call up to support presence in this moment, is a sense of just inviting the word soft. I can feel my body soften, and then it kind of becomes, you know how a tire, when it's soft, can contact the pavement more fully? That's kind of how my body feels when I invite soft into it. It feels like it softens and that can connect with what's happening more fully. Another thing that supports me in being more present right now is bringing a sense of softness to my heart, a sense of kindness and care, a sense of metta. Another thing I notice that supports me to be more present is my posture. Check that out for yourself. How does your posture support you being present? Comfortable, alert, yet relaxed. And then lastly, this helps to support me be present. These words, rest back, rest back. All of a sudden I'm resting back rather than leaning forward into the next moment. That's an inquiry we can bring in. What is it that supports presence in this moment? Here's one more. And this I'm going to invite us to have some fun with the chat box. What is it like? This is an inquiry for you to just feel into. What is it like to be present right now? What's it like to be present right now? If there are 2 or 3 or 4 people that have a word to offer the chat box. We'll have a collective sense of what it's like to be present right now. It's funny that my word is at the moment vulnerable. Isn't that a funny word to come up? But that's how it feels to be present right now. And I feel like vulnerability is like, there's a power in vulnerability, because I feel like I'm right in the moment of, not planning ahead. There's a vulnerability in this moment. A few words here: contentment, joyful, extraordinary, comforting, widely open, free from planning the next task, and then a friend has said, just this. And so this is another inquiry we can offer ourselves. What is it like to be present right now? And just in this, just in that inquiry, this is the magical thing about inquiry. Have another offering, safe. The magic of inquiry is that just the inquiry alone can bring us into presence. Just the inquiry alone. The other magical thing about inquiry is that just through inquiry alone, we can amplify the wholesome qualities that are present. We can so we have this natural, innate amplifier. First of all, we have an identifier in the investigation. It identifies the wholesome that's here, and then it can amplify it. So investigation is a wisdom all by itself, because it can help us to grow these qualities. So I want to just explore one more kind of set of investigations before we close tonight, and that is an investigation. Last week we investigated the third factor of awakening, the factor of energy. So we have mindfulness as the first one, which leads naturally to investigation, because as soon as we're mindful of something, we're kind of automatically, these qualities can be brought in individually, or they're like a domino, a series of dominoes. And when we bring mindfulness in, inquiry follows so automatically. And then if we begin our inquiry, energy can rise because we're connecting with experience. A natural energy can rise, that we feel energized because we're here. And then as this energy rises, there can be a joy at being present that naturally rises. And this is the fourth factor of awakening, this joy of being present. And so last week we investigated energy. We did inquiries together into what it feels like to try hard to be mindful. And then we investigated what it feels like to try easy to be mindful. And so tonight I'm going to invite a couple of inquiries into joy. So just sense your state now. How is it now? There's not always a word. Sometimes it's just kind of a felt sense. And now bring to your mind an event this last week or in the last while that has been pleasant. Something that really was pleasant. I see some smiles coming onto faces just at bringing this in. So just bring something in that was pleasant. What is happening now? This is the inquiry. So the inquiry is what was pleasant, and then the second inquiry, what's happening? What's the impact of turning to this pleasantness? What's happening now in the body, mind, heart? And as we turn our inquiry to this, what's happening now? This is how we begin to make the mind more Velcro for joy. And so what's it like as you turn to the pleasant? Can I have, if possible, 3 or 4 maybe words from folks in the chat box? What's it like to think of, reflect on this pleasant event? And as people are putting their contributions in, their offerings in, just let the pleasant event continue to ripple, continue to resonate in your system. So we have joyful, happiness, warmth, feels good, lightness and warmth, love and brightness and openness. And as I was reading those, as you were resting in that, we could call that abiding in joy. We just kind of abided here together for a few, like maybe 15 seconds. This is a big, huge skill. The Buddha abided in joy. He said, live in joy. Live in joy. And joy has so many flavors. And so I'm going to invite us to one more inquiry with joy. And that is there a place in your being right now as you're sitting? So the first inquiry we called in a memory. Now, is there anywhere in your being right now that feels pleasant or a sense of quiet joy? This could be the memory that you had that's still rippling in you. Or perhaps there's a sense of quiet joy in feeling a steadiness in the body. Perhaps there's a quiet joy in realizing the power of inquiry. Perhaps there's a quiet joy in any stillness that you feel. Perhaps there's a quiet joy in being in the Sangha. Perhaps there's a quiet joy in just feeling the body supported on the chair. If there's a quiet joy in this moment, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people can put a word in the chat box. How does this present moment, joy, quiet joy, feel? So we have some offerings here. A quiet joy in appreciating the Dharma. Expansive welcoming, and steady. And so this is a quiet joy that we can inquire into, or these quiet joys we can inquire, is there any quiet joy here now? And so we'll close with these beautiful words that we've all entered into the chat box, and this capacity we have for inquiry, and how inquiry can identify and call up wholesome states and also amplify wholesome states and help our minds and hearts be more Velcro for those states. And so take inquiry with you this week, and every so often stop and inquire in, what's it like to be present now? What can support me to be present now? What's it like to rest into pleasant moments? What's the quiet joy in this moment like? And so, thank you for your practice tonight. Let's just let the words settle for a moment. And as you settle in, just let your inquiry drop in. How is it now? We'll just close with this quote from Joseph Goldstein. He says, mindfulness brings us face to face with our inner world. The wisdom factor of investigation then illuminates this world and discerns the difference between wholesome and unwholesome. This is not an academic exercise. The wisdom factor in our minds is like an investigative reporter who digs deep to get to the bottom of things. In this case, understanding the very causes of our suffering and their end. Thank you, friends. We'll dedicate the merit of our practice together tonight. May our practice here ripple out and benefit all beings. May our practice be a cause and condition for the liberation in the heart of all beings everywhere.